We are joined by Belize Consulting, and they will be presenting their 24-hour case. Before we get started, I would like to invite all the judges to please quickly state their names and their titles.
Hi, I'm Apurv from Contrary.
Hi, I'm Alejandro Ciarini, Head of Operations, Controlling Huhtamäki.
Alan Wallis, Head of Quality, Huhtamäki.
Hi, I'm Philip. I'm the chairman of Winkelsbaan.
Hello, my name is Hans van Bokhoven. I'm the Head of EU Affairs for Heineken.
Thank you, judges. Team, you will now have 15 minutes to present your solutions, immediately followed by a 15-minute Q&A. Your slide deck has been projected. Could you please confirm this is the correct one? Could you also please confirm that the clicker is working?
Hello.
Great. During both the presentation and the Q&A, Yuto over there will keep track of the time. Yuto will signal to both the presenters and the judges when there are 5 and 1 minute left. Please stand in such a way that you can see the signs when they are held up. When there's 10 seconds left, Yuto will raise his hands and count down. After the time is over, you may finish up your last sentence, but after that we will cut you off. In case of a technical difficulty, we will stop the time and we will take a maximum of 3 minutes to resolve the problem. After that, you will have to continue with your presentation under the actual circumstances. We're now ready for your presentation with that being said, and we will start the time when the first person starts to speak. Good luck.
It's currently 2030, and Huhtamäki Smooth Molded Fiber is now a mass-market food service packaging brand. Let us tell you how you got there. 3 things: food and beverage, green customers, niche to mass. But first, let me rewind the time machine and take you back to now, 2025, where the current situation is volatile demand. And demand is volatile because a lot of the demand is dependent on one thing: legislation. And legislation could go away any second. So demand can go away any second. Therefore, we suggest you that legislation is a catalyst to kickstart a chain reaction of demand. But it cannot be the only single point that demand relies on. Now, let me introduce you to 4 things that are going to help us analyze the entire situation. And the way we approach this is, what value do you bring to your customers? So first, I'll take you through cost reduction. Do you reduce your customers' cost? Well, as of now, SMF is still a lot more expensive than alternatives like plastic. Therefore, what we suggest is target customers who already are willing to pay the higher price to save the trouble. So let's keep that in mind and move on. Number 2, what tangible benefits you bring to customers to improve their products. Now, let's take a look at the market. Now, I know this is a lot of information, but there's just one thing I want to highlight. The reason why you're on the very top corner is because of your technology that not a lot of people can match. Now, however, if you want to capture the entire portion of the market, you have to double down on and use your competitive advantages. What are they? Your expertise in FMCG sustainability. The fact that your products by nature are made from virgin tree fiber, meaning compared to a lot of your competitors who use recycled paper, it is inherently more safe when come into direct contact with food. So you see where we're going with this. We want you to apply SMF in food and beverage. Number 3 is, again, your high precision engineering capabilities that not a lot of people can match at this very moment. So we know your advantages, but where do you use them? What industry? So we took a look for you. 5 industries within FMCGs where packaging play a huge role in influencing customer perception. And right off the bat, I'm going to save you trouble, and the reason why a lot of them don't work as of now is because of a similar reason. Because you have to develop a barrier property technology by which it can hold liquid for a very long time. And by very long time, I mean years. And so right now, the R&D has to take effect, and it's not there yet. So why not just focus on something you already have the expertise in, that you already have the technology for? Food and beverage. Consistent and high demand, high willingness to pay, and also a high demand for precision engineering. It's the perfect market. But again, even if we know this, who should you target? Everyone? Someone? Who? Well, the current situation is you say, hey, SMF has a lot of benefits. See, you don't have to burn your hands, it is safer for food, we have high precision engineering. But the mass market, and keep in mind, mass market customer says, hey, I don't see eye to eye with you, as you can see with the eye. We don't see eye to eye with you. The value's not aligned. We don't see why we have to pay the higher price. There is a brand value misalignment by which the value with you is not aligned. So there's an easy way out. Why not just target customers who already see eye to eye with you, who already align their values with you? Or do they exist? Well, let me introduce you to them. LOHAS customers, lifestyle of health and sustainability customers who already care, who are already super happy. Yes, I want to pay the higher price for you. And it is perfect to target them. So if you were to target them first, and then when you build up brand credibility through them, you can target the mass market consumer again as a two-part roadmap. And this is a market by which there is pull demand. The demand is sitting right there waiting for you. Please use me. You don't have to go in and create the demand yourself. So I know it's a lot of information. Let me put it together for you. Legislation is a catalyst. Let's skip the cost for now. You bring tangible benefits. In what industry do you use it best? Food and beverage. Now, in what industry do you bring intangible benefits? In which customers see eye to eye with you? LOHAS customers. And when you scale up, we come back to the cost as economies of scale drives down the cost, completing a perfect cycle. So today, we're going to explain this process to you, and I invite all of you to join me in finding out how can Huhtamaki target the food and beverage LOHAS market initially, eventually transitioning to the mass market product. Now, here's the secret. Natalie, take it away.
Thank you, Adrian. Today, we bring our strategy to you in 3 parts: short term, medium term, and long term, to ensure that your company can successfully transition to a mass market product, driving revenue. So, let's first look at our short-term strategy. Within 2 years, your company will partner with ready-to-eat brands to capture an easy win cash cow and fund long-term expansion. But why ready-to-eat? We understand that Huhtamaki is currently facing 3 key challenges. Your company is at an early adoption rate where you suffer from low brand awareness and a value communication gap with mass audiences. Therefore, Huhtamaki should target markets with a high concentration of LOHAS consumers who are 1, willing to learn about your new technology, and 2, willing to adopt your new technology. And research shows that 1 in 4 customers in the RTE market are LOHAS consumers. So, the direction is clear. Huhtamaki should expand into the RTE market. When looking for partnership brands within the RTE market, we believe it's crucial to look for brands that share a strong sustainability focus and have a large market presence in Europe and North America to quickly help Huhtamaki gain awareness among LOHAS consumers. And with these criteria in mind, we believe that HelloFresh is an amazing option for your company. Huhtamaki can replace HelloFresh's aluminum trays and plastic meal boxes with SMF packaging intended for microwave or oven use. As Huhtamaki replaces these products, it would be crucial for you to conduct size precision R&D to ensure seamless compatibility of your new packaging with HelloFresh's pre-existing machinery in their production facilities, such as filling and box packing equipment. However, we also know that Huhtamaki can leverage on their past R&D in heat-insulated fiber-based trays, and so we think that a 9-month market entry would be achievable for your company in this industry. Now, on top of increasing the adoption rate of SMF packaging, we know that it's also essential to build brand equity to drive long-term competitive advantage. And how can we do that? 2 things. 1, strategic logo placement on SMF packaged meal kits to enhance brand visibility. And 2, consumer-facing marketing on social media platforms where you engage and educate consumers on your biodegradability functions and being a leader in the sustainability world. Thereby, building brand awareness and brand preference, ultimately building brand equity where LOHAS customers will be actively choosing and advocating your sustainable packaging. But now, let's take a step back. It's very obvious to us what Huhtamaki can gain from this partnership. You will be able to gain a new revenue stream and build brand equity. But why would HelloFresh be incentivized to work with us? That's because Huhtamaki can enhance their brand image and product value. 72% of customers perceive compostable packaging as more sustainable than plastic, paper, and aluminum. And we can also help further their brand proposition of being convenient and easy to use with our safe-to-touch, ready-to-use meal kits. Now, to further incentivize our partners to become our early adopters, we will implement a strategic pricing strategy where we charge 55 cents per package paid on a net 90 days trade credit. By doing so, we will be able to reduce upfront financial costs, reducing barriers to adoption, strengthening customer relationships, and creating recurring payment cycles for Huhtamaki to have predictable revenue streams. Now we see that there are many other potential partnership brands in the RTE market that you can work with, for example, Blue Apron and Home Chef, which are both specializing in oven-ready or microwave-ready meal kits. But beyond the North American and European market, the market is huge. So after year 2, Huhtamaki will expand to Asia, where you capture the Asian lowest consumers, partnering with leading RTE brands such as Nosh and Grain. So, Ian, tell us about the impacts of our short-term strategy.
Absolutely. So for our short-term strategy, there are 3 key and important benefits. Number 1, achieving economies of scale to break the chicken and egg scalability problem and pushing down per unit cost and pushing down the cost of creating an MVP. Secondly, it could help to increase our brand equity by association of HelloFresh and communicate that Huhtamaki is a brand that cares about sustainability. And lastly and important, to show that SMF technology is a proven concept. It could have commercial viability to really encourage other firms to be less apprehensive when future partnership opportunities. And so with this, there are 3 key benefits. And Huhtamaki is moving from an early adopter phase into a large-scale mass market focus. Introducing our medium-term strategy. Moving into the food and beverage market. So keeping into mind, we have 3 industry trends: rising legislation, ESG commitments, and also warming consumer receptiveness towards sustainability packaging. We look at 3 industries: packaging solutions, catering services, and also food service brands, evaluating them across whether they have strong ESG goals, large-scale production, product expertise fit, and whether consumers are ready. And we see that food service brands are a clear winner. How exactly should we target them? So you have currently existing partnerships, such as with McDonald's and Starbucks, but these projects didn't exactly take flight because of high per unit costs, and often they were stuck in the MVP phase. And so moving forwards, we think that you could really emphasize on that now you have economies of scale and it's commercially viable. For example, for McDonald's, food packaging, only 10% is actually recycled. By replacing it with SMF meal trays, there's natural decomposition and less waste accumulation, which could help McDonald's achieve their future net zero goals. We have 3 KPIs by the end of year 5. My colleague James will be happy to talk more about them later. But moving forward to our long-term expansion strategy, there are 3 major directions. Number 1, solidifying mass market adoption. Number 2, expanding your product portfolio. And number 3, deepening your sustainability brand equity. Looking into the first one, we suggested that you could focus on quick service restaurants. But moving away from that, you could also expand into retail and private label ready-to-eat meals. And eventually have a mass market focus where SMF packaging becomes a staple for takeout meals. Aside from that, expanding your product portfolio is equally important. So expanding beyond new trays, but also having single-use cutlery, cups and lids, bowls, etc. And at the same time, capitalizing on industry trends such as the creation of barrier properties to expand into liquid containers, etc. And lastly, really doubling down and honing in the message that Huhtamaki is a sustainable brand through social media engagement, consumer awareness, and community initiatives to really communicate with not just low-cost customers, but also the mass market that Huhtamaki cares about sustainability and SMF is sustainability. With that, I'd love to pass it on to my colleague James to talk more about the impacts.
Thank you, Ian. The timeline for the short and medium term strategy is for the next 5 years, and we're more than happy to showcase what we've summarized in that. But first, let's talk a little bit about the numbers. Over the next 5 years, we project to earn around 358 million euros from this expansion. These key numbers are underpinned by 3 key assumptions. The first is a very, very top line, 55-cent figure per packaging solution, and that for every RTE partner, you can fulfill around 75% of their packaging needs. And in terms of takeout partners, we estimate around 380 packaging solutions used by them per day. In terms of cost, we project around 38 million euros in direct project expenses, and in another 321 million euros in normalized product and operating expenses that we've benchmarked against you, your competitors, and the relevant things for smooth molded fiber. But though we think our strategy is very good, of course there are some risks, and we cannot ignore them. The first main risk is, what if those customers that we say are there, that you're not able to engage them as well as we believe you can? But that's where my colleague talked about the brand surveys, really getting to know customers. Is HelloFresh where you want to dedicate your resources, or do you want to move to another partner which may better resonate with your brand ideals? And that is something we continue to monitor and mitigate. On the second part, what if the cost savings are not there? Well, I think the real question is, how exactly do we reach those cost savings, and why do we have conviction in that? We believe that by focusing on this specific niche of packaging, it is something that you can control. It's because not only can you start with HelloFresh, you can then go to Asia with partners like Nosh and really capture this niche to get your operating countries going. And lastly, within the brand, what if HelloFresh does not want to partner with you? We think that this is mitigated by the right financial, ideological incentives, and there are other partners for you to work with. But I want to bring us back to what's really important here. In 5 years' time, you want to be able to say that your product is a great choice for all food packaging solutions. You want to say that you've developed the right groundwork, not only to expand into other verticals for your restaurant partners that my colleague has talked about, but globally as well. And with that, thank you for listening to us, and we'd love to answer any and all questions that you have about the strategy.
Thank you, T. Now the judges will have 15 minutes to ask their questions.
Hi. What long-term trends in ready-to-eat as a sector did you pick up for you to be encouraged to put a big bet on it?
Thank you for your question. So for ready-to-eat market, we are mainly targeting them for the short-term strategy, where we capitalize on their needs for sustainable packaging, where they are also safe to touch, ready for the oven and microwave use. So this is a trend that we see because, for example, HelloFresh, they have been continuously working on their sustainable packaging for For example, HelloFresh, they have been continuously trying to achieve a circular economy, and a lot of the other RTE brands that we see, for example, Blue Apron or Home Chef that I mentioned earlier in the presentation, they're also trying to make more sustainable packaging, and this is a trend that we're trying to capitalize on. And after year two, and also expanding into Asia with these RTE brands, we think we'll be more capitalizing on the fact that we're going to work with food and beverage fast service restaurants.
Yeah, I think just building on what my colleague was saying, so at the moment, the industry, the pre-packed milk industry is growing at around a 6% CAGR, but what we're really seeing is, in terms of percentage of revenues that we're projecting, it tops out around, I think, 80 million euros from starting year 4 onwards, and what we really see is this is the initial scale, where it takes on a smaller percentage of revenue as you scale toward the bigger clients with McDonald's, etc., in terms of takeout meals, which is how we project the revenue.
My question is related to scalability of this business. You are proposing doing this premium market, but how do you see that scalability and expansion beyond Western Europe?
I guess I can talk about that in terms of the financials first. So in terms of financials, if we're looking at the takeaway bill, right? The way it works is we believe each restaurant needs around 380 packaging solutions. So if you imagine takeout containers, or maybe a takeout lid, that is somewhere you can come in. And we model that here as kind of a function of takeout, a number of takeouts required, and a number of restaurants. And we grow the number of restaurants, if you look at year 3, from 1 restaurant to 974. We think you'll reach around 974 restaurants where they're serving your takeout containers, and going then forward, it'll be a continuous growth, I guess.
Yes, my question was more not on the financial part, but relate to how you move beyond what is Western Europe. Because who is gonna be able to pay this? I mean, this ready-to-eat business is not the same size in every country. So we can say in Western Europe you can.
Um,
Yeah.
so, I'd just like to clarify, it's about the RTE market and moving from North America to Asia. Is that your question on how we can do that?
Exactly. What is the size of this?
Okay, sorry.
And
Sorry,
if,
we
if really it's feasible to have a scale, if you move beyond the first phase, but I presume that is in Western Europe.
Yes. So we actually have some statistics. The reason why I wanted to start with North America and Europe is because of logistics reason and also expertise in acquiring, expanding in these markets. But afterwards, we see that Asia, they also have a very large share in low-cost consumers, and the CAGR is increasing at a similar rate with North America and European markets. And why we think we can do that is because we do see that there are some differences in the characteristics of our low-cost consumers in Asian market. For example, they might be more price sensitive, but that's why we want to first work on our North American and European customers who are more willing to pay, and afterwards, as we achieve economies of scale, we will be able to lower our prices and tailor more to the Asian market with capturing the low-cost consumers. But regarding how we can scale that, it will be going from American, European-based meal kit brands to brands such as Nosh and Grain, which are mainly focused in Asian markets, and we can capitalize on their expertise as we move on to expand to other parts of Asia.
And this is lead to my second question. When you expand to Asia, how we can compete with the cost in Asia? Competitors in Asia are more competitive in terms of cost.
Yeah, definitely.
And sorry, another question just to how you visualize how many SKUs are required, because more SKUs is more difficult to be more competitive in fiber.
I think on the first part about the cost, I think at the end of the day, it's about the question of are consumers willing to pay a premium for your product? And I think something that James mentioned is, yes, there are these, like Nosh is very Asian focused, but actually HelloFresh has a presence in Asia as well. And the united theme that I see with a lot of these major brands is they're willing to pay for additional sustainability. So yes, there's a little bit of cost compression, but we see these low-has customers are still very prevalent and willing to pay a premium, despite the overall market being a little bit more cost sensitive. And sorry, about the second question of SKUs, is that, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the way of being more efficient in terms of operationally or in cost is that if you can run one SKU, if you have multiple SKUs, this gets more challenging to be competitive. And generally, these kind of brands, they require, probably you're talking about a tray that in shape looks like similar, but these brands used to recover different functions or geographies, and require.
Yeah, so in terms of SKUs, there are slight differences between each of the companies, but they're relatively like similar enough. Like where the same production, we believe the same production facilities could be used to manufacture and everything to get up the scale. It's mostly about like it's mostly this type of trade. It's pretty similar, I would say.
So from do you have an insight on existing legislation and upcoming legislation, relevant legislations, which could actually increase or make Huhtamaki even more profitable in a short and mid-term?
Right, so going back to the legislation slide, the way we mapped it is, so currently there was a demand drop actually at first, which is when the EU, it went really loose on the requirements, and so that kind of dropped the demand. But then right now, we're looking at trends so as you can see here, right? So EU dropped the trend. However, we do anticipate in the future, because the US is currently doing their legislation, they're doing quite a lot of legislative projects, and EU also. So, but however, I don't have a specific legislation code or name I can give you, but my colleagues can elaborate.
Yeah, 100%. So like for example, the EU in 2030, they're aiming to like reduce, I think there's legislation on like eliminating a lot of single-use plastics. For example, I think like single-use like forks or straws and things along those lines. And so we see that Huhtamaki, as for our medium-term strategy, moving into food service brands, we would also capitalize upon this trend. But we want to make sure that it's not just because of legislation, we're actually creating demand from the market.
So basically, the suggestion is to adopt a push solution towards the customer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right, so let me clarify on how exactly this works. So the starting point is legislation, but then we all know that legislation is volatile. It can come, it can go. And so the goal right here is to find a market by which that demand is already there. So we don't have to push the demand. The demand is there, and it's the demand pull. You're entering a market with demand.
So, provocative question maybe. Then what made a brand such as HelloFresh not to come to Huhtamaki already?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So the question is, and I repeat, maybe it's a bit provocative. What made a brand such as HelloFresh not to come to Huhtamaki already and to demand this product? Is it only the price?
So currently, brands like HelloFresh, they are trying to achieve more circular economy. However, our technology is not we see there's a value communication gap because there's a lack of communication telling these brands what we actually can offer to them. And so that's why we want to, through our strategy, we hire sales associates to actively reach out to them and tell them about it. And currently, HelloFresh, they are trying to increase their sustainability, but they have not been able to learn about our technology. We see that there's a main problem here.
We definitely see the oven trays, for example, is better than aluminum. It's relatively like a niche and also like newer benefit. And so perhaps like HelloFresh, they do not exactly know about this, that we could replace the aluminum trays. So we definitely see like potential and value there.
Yes, sorry, still one more question on this topic. I mean, so you focus on LOAS, you focus on HelloFresh. HelloFresh already has a good representation with the LOAS consumer. So there's I would say little maybe added benefit if you add additional cues on that level. And specifically in light of today's economic situation, where consumers are looking more at affordability than about sort of other sustainability components. So how do you see this impacting your strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. So like, there's a question about how exactly we can communicate our unique value proposition to justify a higher price. And so what we see right now is that low-has customers are relatively less price sensitive. And so we see that like through communicating with HelloFresh, we could target this like actually more like price inelastic customer segment. And how exactly like we're adding value to HelloFresh, because they're always looking for possibilities to be more sustainable. We definitely bring value there. But then at the same time, there's also smaller industry players such as Blue Apron, Nutrition Kitchen. They're trying to look for an edge over HelloFresh. And so by targeting these smaller players, we can say, like, okay, this is an edge that you gain over a competitor, and that's how we could potentially bring value to these customers as well.
So I guess this is the last question, time-wise, but we keep hearing about the environmental benefit of the Huhtamaki package compared to plastics and aluminium. But my question to you is, when does that environmental benefit materialize, and what does the consumer need to do in order to gain that benefit? In other words, where does that package end up in the end?
So your product is biodegradable at home. I think something that is definitely...
How many consumers are biodegrading at home? How many do that?
So as in like your product should be designed for biodegradable at home, so like throw it outside, or also to just throw it in a rubbish bin. As long as the conditions are right, it should naturally biodegrade. It's more about the fact that like in general people, I would say, are very convenient. They focus on convenience a lot, right? They don't specifically buy something that's biodegradable, but if their food, which they've already ordered, comes in a biodegradable container, and all they need to do is just throw it in their bin or throw it in their backyard, I think that's those benefits have been realized. They're able to do good to folks on need as well as be convenient.
Thank you.
Let's say that HelloFresh say no. What is the next step?
In other cases where HelloFresh says no, in the North American and European market, we see there are other potential brands such as Blue Apron and Home Chef. And as as Ian just mentioned, these brands are also actively trying to find more sustainable packaging and win over the big player of HelloFresh, because currently HelloFresh is capturing a lot of market share from these two brands, which were originally dominating the market. And so by targeting these brands, we'll be able to give them a value proposition, making them want to work with us. And even if these two companies do not work with us, we still have a lot of other potential brands in the Asian market, Nosh, Ring, etc., etc. So we think there's a lot of possibilities because of the large growing market in RTE.
I just want to go on what Hans was saying. So people are looking at convenience. Are they willing to pay more for this convenience? Is that what you're saying? Or HelloFresh, for example, will absorb those costs and not roll out those on the consumer? Can you just speculate on this a bit?
I think the logic change that we're thinking of is that we want to target customers who are willing to pay a premium. So I think convenience is not the biggest selling point here, but the biggest selling point is that this is more sustainable than what they currently use. So for example, there's like, I'm sure there's like products in the market, like they advocate themselves as like fully green, but they're actually 95% it says fiber and 5% plastic. And so these products are not fully green, but ours is like, is more sustainable than them. And so convenience is a factor, like perhaps like when we're going to food service brands, like for like McDonald's when they're considering this, but for low-has customers specifically.
So does customer willing to pay for this convenience and sustainability premium?
From my research, yes. For example, in Hong Kong and other parts of Asia, they're now, for example, rolling out dual versions of the same product on supermarkets, where they have a slightly cheaper version as well as the new one. And what we see is that consumers are still willing to pay slightly more, like 10 cents more, for the slightly more expensive option.
Thank you.